This webinar tonight is part of the virtual college fair, virtual Christian college fair sponsored by NACCAP and Find Your Christian College. And the platform is open for 24 hours, 7 days a week. So that virtual fair is open from now until November the 18th. And you're welcome to jump in on these evenings like tonight between 7 to 10 Eastern. There will likely be college reps in there to have conversations with you as well, but you can feel free to explore the booths, chat with reps, and get information on the colleges that are available at the fair. We'll also have live sessions on November 9th and November the 17th, so we'd love for you to join us for those as well. Watch your email for more information on those dates and the topics that will be provided. Tonight we have a very special presenter for this session, and it's Dr. Phil Cook. Dr. Phil Cook serves as the Executive Director for NACCAP, which is the North American Coalition for Christian Admission Professionals. It's a nonprofit organization comprised of admissions and guidance professionals from universities, Bible colleges, graduate schools, and seminaries throughout North America. And we're excited to have you here, Phil. His role prior to working at NACCAP was 28 years at Lee University and finishing as Vice President for Enrollment there. He has a wealth of knowledge on Christian higher education and college admissions, and I am confident you're going to get some great information from Phil tonight. So welcome, Phil, and thank the rest of you for being here.
Well, thank you very much, Molly, for this opportunity, and thank you to all of you that are here. We're so glad there are participants with us tonight. Thank you for being here and being a part of this session. As Molly said, we're eager to share with you just for a few minutes before you get over to the virtual college fair and begin your visit there. So let me just again express my appreciation for each of you being here tonight and being a part of this process. We're pleased to tell you about why we have committed our lives to Christian higher education, and particularly campuses around the country, represented with the three of us in our work, and then our staff, and then our more than 300 members around the country. We're so pleased to be a part of this. So again, please use the Q&A feature, and there's the Christian College Fair's email address that you can send your questions to as well. But again, my name is Phil Cook, and prior to my work here, I served and I suppose talked to hundreds and maybe even thousands of students about this process and about this selection process. And so I'm eager to share a couple of thoughts that I have and using something from the industry that we'll share. You can't be a part of this college choice process now without thinking about the value of Christian education or education in general, right? Just higher education. So the common question out there is college worth it? Is a Christian college worth it? Does the return on the investment, is it necessary for me to be successful? Is it necessary for me to be a professional? Is it successful for me in terms of all of the things that I want to do with my future and my life? So there is an investment. And then ultimately we framed this conversation tonight with the idea of the cost of a Christian college university. And that's where our thoughts are tonight, what we want to talk to you about for just a few minutes. First, let me talk to you a little bit about the idea of why we think going to college is a good choice. That higher education in and of itself is a good choice. I mentioned earlier that I've counseled hundreds and thousands, perhaps, students in this process, but I will say that I am also the father of 3 children who have all made this choice as well, 2 of whom made the choice to attend a Christian college. The third also is still enrolled at a Christian college, and he is about to graduate this year. But in talking to them, we wanted to make sure they understood all the factors that influence this decision. First and foremost, you hopefully, some of this data won't be new to you. And of course, there are resources and citations for all of these things that we have. But economically, if you choose to enroll at a college, generally speaking, over the course of your career and the course of your lifetime, you're going to earn more money. I was doing some research in the past few days. I see estimations of as many as $500,000 or maybe even $1 million more than high school graduates over the course of a lifetime. So absolutely, economic reasons to go to college are still there, even in this economy that we find ourselves now, even in a post-COVID world. Also, as you attain more education, there are opportunities for more increased earnings. And we think that's an important thing for you to think about as well as you consider undergraduate degrees and graduate degrees as well. This is an investment in your future. So when you go to college and you attend a 4-year institution or 2-year institution, you're ultimately going to see the benefits in both your earnings and also your career. Having a degree is going to open up opportunities for you. So if you want to be a teacher, then you have to get a 4-year degree. If you want to go to med school, be in a professional training program of some kind, then you're going to have a college degree and ultimately more training. And I would argue, if we were sitting over a cup of coffee in your dining room, wherever you're watching it right now, that even those of us that have liberal arts degrees, or some that might have an English degree, or maybe even a degree in history, that you can also increase your earning and have career opportunities because of the liberal arts education that you receive. Another important part of this in your career is networking. I got an email today from a former student of mine who got a job in his corporate sales training because of someone else in a class that I taught when he was in a class a few years ago. He's talking about the opportunity we have to create networking and opportunities. Obviously, there's good opportunities when you go to college in that context as well. Socially, people that are going to colleges when they graduate, they have more social opportunities. Research and data will show that relationships are better, quality of life is better. That is to say, someone is more at peace and more satisfied and more gratified in their work than those who do not finish a 4-year degree. So again, we want to make more money, we have career opportunities, we want to be happy and pleased with what we're doing. Culturally, when you go to a college, you're going to meet people from other cultures, specifically if you're going to a Christian college. The institution I worked at, we had students from 57 countries and 47 states. So our students from our area had the opportunity to meet people from other parts of the country and other parts of the world. It actually gave them the opportunity to learn and grow by meeting folks from other cultural opportunities. And our campus required our students to have a global perspective. Many college universities do that, and many Christian colleges do that. They're going to have you go on a trip outside the country. That is to go on a cross-cultural experience. So those benefits are also beneficial as well. And of course, research shows that folks that go to college are more healthy. They understand what it is to be a better fit, and diet and exercise and all of those things contribute to this and ultimately increase life expectancy. I have a son I mentioned who's a senior in college, and this week he was so proud that he is now completely disciplined in his work, his class. He's always been a good student, but he's been a little bit lazy in terms of a little bit sloppy in his work. But personally, he's found gratification in setting a goal, finding success in the classroom, but also finding the class success outside while going to college, clubs and organizations. So he has developed and become more professional. He's become more mature, and this college experience has been the reason for him to do that. My daughters, did better at that naturally. So these are all reasons why people think about why is it important to go to college. But we're not here to talk about just going to college. We want you to see the value in a Christian higher education. So some of my comments I'm going to make for the next few minutes are going to be taken from, I describe them as our partner institution called the Council for Christian Colleges and Universities. The acronym is called CCCU, and they do a publication, and the most recent one, and I'm going to show it to you, you wouldn't have this, but it's called the CCCU Advance. I've highlighted, dissected, and gone through the articles and want to share some of those thoughts with you today. It's called Advance, is their publication. The president of the CCCU, Shirley Hoekstra, says this: religious education has been the best opportunity to form human beings who bless the world. Now, using the word bless right there, that's a church word. That's an ecumenical word that many of us know and are familiar with. But to impact the world, to make have a positive role in the world, or in our language, in our lingo, to bless the world. And so that's what we think that Christian college universities are able to do. The editor of this particular magazine offered 3 ideas that I want to share with you today. Do you have a question about whether a research university can prepare you for your academic career? I mentioned being at a campus. Well, I was in Tennessee for more than 30 years, and the big university there, no surprise, is the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. Students and families aren't thinking, am I going to be prepared academically by attending the University of Knoxville? Well, no, that's going to happen. So what we want you to know and want you to think about as you're making this decision, as you count the cost, you do not have to sacrifice academic quality or excellence by choosing a Christian college university. There is robust academic engagement on our campuses all around the country and in Canada. So we're proud of that academic engagement. You will be challenged academically. In fact, if you're not, then you shouldn't attend that school. If we're not preparing you for your career, if we're not preparing you for your vocation, if we're not preparing you for graduate school, then we're just taking your money and not serving you well. So there must be robust engagement of ideas. But as a Christ-centered campus, there also must be a real deep dialogue on the role of faith and vocation. What's my calling and what's my career going to be? On many of our campuses, you'll hear some of our faculty and our colleagues say, you are called as a believer and a follower of Jesus Christ to love the Lord with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. That is your calling. Well, can one be called to be an accountant? Not sure why someone would want to do that, but perhaps someone would want to be called to be an accountant. Is one called to medicine? Are you called, of course, to ministry aspirations? But what we think about in terms of Christian schools you're going to find, we're going to have a conversation about that. How does your faith impact the decision that you're making? You're not just going to work and punching a time clock or sitting at a desk. You're going to a vocation that is impacting the world. And third, we find that our campus communities, wholehearted commitment. We must raise the next generation of leadership for those of us that follow Christ. And Morgan shared these 3 points in this publication. So we want you to think about that as you make this decision, as you count the cost of making this choice. Additionally, another person in this publication, his name is Peter Wehner. Peter's a senior fellow at Trinity Forum, and he's a contributor to the Atlantic and the New York Times. This essay that's in this magazine, which I'm going to quote from for the next few minutes, was part of another publication, but was reprinted in this publication with permission. And our friend Peter is not of our tribe. He's not a person of deep faith, but he offers these comments. And he says this in his essay of Body and Spirit. Faith is an afterthought, if that, in most of American higher education. So the majority of institutions around the country are not faith-based FBIs or not Christ-centered. And so when faith is an afterthought at those institutions, we think that's a shame, because faith and academics grew up together. They influenced one another, and they have much to learn from one another. So we think that religious higher education, it is not obsolete. In fact, it is more necessary and more needed than ever. So in particular, what does Christianity rather have to say or to contribute to higher education? I've mentioned this already, but I want to say it again. First-rate scholarship. When hopefully you choose to attend a Christian campus, when you graduate, when you arrive to campus, or when you get there, you must find first-rate scholarship. And then when you graduate, you must be at and competitive with those students from other schools or institutions, and or those of you with whom you're working, the person in your cubicle or the person down the hallway in your office setting. You must be ready to be competitive as well. Secondly, the Christian colleges and Christian religious education contributes a richer and more diverse intellectual culture. Because right now, we believe there's a lack, and this article argues for a lack of spiritual center. In many places, intellectual dimensions of faith, they're not taking seriously. I did get to do some graduate work at a public university, and I remember being in the room, looking around the room with the 24 other people in the classroom, thinking, I'm the only person here who would articulate a faith and a belief in Jesus Christ. And I felt, even as an adult, it put me kind of on my defenses. So the idea of academic pursuit in these public settings is that faith is absent. Christian thought has something important to contribute to academic discourse. And we want to be sure that Christianity, rightly understood, is considering something that you make as you make your choice. So a richer and more diverse intellectual culture is also something we provide. Also, third, it's essential to conserving and transmitting the best ideas of the Christian faith. How do we pass down these ideas, orthodoxy or the orthodox views of what it means to be a follower of Jesus Christ? So we think that higher ed institutions are the places that can conserve and transmit the best of Christian thought very well. And of course, churches do that. Other groups do that. Other organizations do that. But the Christian college universities must do that, and they must do it well. Fourth, this idea is something that the author Peter Wehner shares, that he got from an atheist. He asked this atheist, he said, what do you think Christian college universities have to contribute to the culture? And he said, humility, because we've all fallen short and our judgments are distorted. And so as the Apostle Paul said, we see through a glass darkly. So we have to be humble in how we approach this academic enterprise. But he argues, and I'm going to read this exactly for you without putting it on the screen, intellectual humility, that is the openness to learning and correction, is needed everywhere. But one would hope it would be found most conspicuously within the walls of academia. Right now it's not, and Christianity, when it's most faithful, can model what it means to search for truth with integrity. So we think Christian colleges, as we learn and we look with critical thinking, that it's not lightweight or secondary to our colleagues at our secondary or public institutions. We must have a critical thought and a critical discipline that is first rate. We must have a rich and diverse intellectual culture, but we also must approach these things with humility, because that way those who do not share the faith that we have can see something different in us. I also would argue the culture where free expression is valued. Many of our campuses today and many campuses around the country don't see the true expression of thought. You might be very well aware of this. There are some students who have an opinion, but in a public setting, a public institution, they may not be free to share it. Don't know if I should admit this, and it's being recorded, but I saw a TikTok this week. And on the TikTok, a student shared the fact that she did an assignment and offered it completely different than what she thought, because she did so in order to get the grade that she needed. Her opinion, her faith-based or faith-influenced decision and opinion was something that she could not do. She felt intimidated and embarrassed to do that. So the conformity of thought that we see in higher education today, it's less pronounced, we think, in Christian colleges and universities. So this culture of free expression is valued, and we see it on Christian campuses around the country. Finally, the best part of liberal arts is what this ideal is. A few years ago, I met a family, and the family went on a tour. They came back from the campus tour, and the person said, "You're a liberal arts institution?" I said, "Yes, sir, we are. A Christ-centered liberal arts institution." He said, "Well, how liberal are you?" And so his understanding of the word liberal was not what our understanding. Liberal arts, in the best sense of that, it educates the whole person. And we think that Christian colleges and universities are the exact place that you can be educated within the whole person. So at the moment when the rest of American higher education is moving away from it, non-Christian institutions of higher education, they view a college education as a commodity. What is this? What do I get out of this? Look, when I go to buy something and it's pretty much the same value, I go to Walmart, not afraid to admit it. If I'm feeling a little bougie, I might go to Target. That's true. I might buy something from Target. But education, in particular, higher education, is not a can of beans. It's not a car. It's so much more than that. But the market now says, what is this only and exclusively through a commodity? And I say to you, higher education, in particular, Christian higher education, is not just a commodity. Peter Weiner summarized his comments this way, and I share that with you as we come to a close of our time together. At their best, Christian higher education institutions appreciate the fundamental purpose of education, which is to shape the human soul, to pursue the moral good, to love the right things. It is a deeply integrative view. Christian colleges are almost alone today in intentionally developing students who, in the words of the Hebrew prophet Micah, act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. This is the best part of the process. This is what we do in Christian colleges and universities, and we invite you to consider that as you're making your choice and visiting this virtual webinar. So, is college worth it? Is a Christian college worth it? Is the investment worth it? What is the cost? I listened to a podcast this week to a dear colleague and friend of mine. I only spent 20 years on a college campus. He spent 40 years. For those of us who might know this name, his name is Roger Kiefer. Roger was asked point blank in this podcast, "Roger, can you look back all your years and say, is a college education worth it?" And he said, "Absolutely, hands down, no question about it." And he cautioned, which I'd offer this caution to you, not to just look at the narrow data that just says this is one experience. This is just one person's exorbitant amount of debt or this exorbitant amount of cost. When you look at the data in aggregate, when you look at the research in aggregate, Students who attend and go to a four-year school are better economically, socially, physically, civically. They're all better. So don't just look at those one isolated instance, which might make you think that it's not worth it. And even then, the sacrifice of attending a Christian college university is absolutely worth it. So look past the sample size of one and make sure you look at the big picture as you're making this decision. I'll close with the scripture. This is the cost of, this is where I got the origin of the idea for this title tonight is, and this is from the Gospel of Luke. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? If you lay the foundation, not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule, saying that person began to build and wasn't able to finish. That's a retention issue. And there's more scripture that goes on about war. But finally, Luke says to us, in the same way, those of you who do not give up everything, you cannot be my disciples. What is the cost? It costs something to go to complete a degree. It costs something to go to a Christian college university. A few years ago, I talked to a mom who was calling me and asking me for more money for her daughter to stay in school. She told me the story about the second job that she was offered, that she was doing. She, as the mom, was doing landscaping on the side from her office job where she would go. And she had pictures. She sent me a picture of her hands where she was digging in the dirt and weeding to help her daughter accomplish this dream. It cost for her, and there was a sacrifice. But as our friend at the CCU, Shirley Hoekstra, says, Christian college universities seek to shape the souls of their students. I'm a soul shaper. That's what I've been doing for many, many years. And this is what the students in accordance with their religious beliefs, it is a cause worth fighting for. And that's why we're here today on a Tuesday night telling you about Christian college universities. We think this is worth fighting for, and we hope you as a family will continue to consider the cost and send your son or daughter, or you yourself, to enroll at a Christian college or campus. I'm so grateful for the time we spent together. There may or may not be a question. If that's the case, we'll jump into those. If not, you can also engage with us here through Christian College Fairs at NACCAP.org. Molly?
Thank you so much, Phil. We do have a couple of questions. Hopefully we'll have time to get through these. But Phil, one of the questions that's been sent to us, do you think Christian higher ed is worth parent or student debt? It's a hot topic these days, right? Student debt. So
other than the price, other than the return on the investment of going to college, other than the actual price out of the box, kind of what's it cost, the sticker price, student debt is the thing I got asked about the most in my last 20 years of working this. And there are dear friends and Christian brothers in this space who would tell you that debt is always bad, that debt is not a good example. I will tell you this, my experience, the only way I could finish and get a degree at an institution that literally changed the course of my life academically, socially, and spiritually. The only way I could do that was student debt. Scholarships are superior. They're the first way to approach this. As another webinar for another time. Grants are great. Grants are what you should be looking for. All kind of Pell grants, institutional grants, all of those are great. And I would tell you that loans are last. But in my estimation, minimal debt is an investment in your future. It's borrowing from your future earnings. And I think a right use of debt is absolutely something that could be used to finance a Christian college education. Yes, I do. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. And I think we can sneak one more in before sending them off. But the other one that's come in is, should Christian families only consider Christian colleges? Is there a reason to think about anything else?
Well, I will tell you, I would be disingenuous of me to answer yes to that, because that's not truthful. One of my dearest friends is head of school in Atlanta, Georgia, and we had this conversation clearly. He went to a Christian undergraduate, K through 12, went to Christian high school, but he went to a large state school, had a wonderful experience, was very involved in what's now called CREW, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He had a wonderful Christian experience at his large state school. So I can't tell you with a clear conscience or my integrity intact that you must only consider Christian schools, but I will tell you that is my hope. What is this I have? My prayer for you would be that you would be able to find a way to do it, because you can't, if you don't sacrifice academics, if you don't sacrifice the experience, the college experience, then I believe that the faith add-on, the part of faith that makes this experience different is worth it. So no, families shouldn't only consider Christian schools, but gosh, we sure hope you do. And that's why we're having this session tonight.
Thank you. We will end with that, but we want to thank you, Dr. Phil Cook, for sharing your insight, and thank you who have come. There is another virtual session getting started the overview of the college search process. I'd say that's worth hitting that up. So I would hop over there. And then, as we've said, the booths will be open from now until the 18th, 24/7. But the 9th and the 17th will have more of these live events for you to join. We hope you come back and join us.